about yourself?
Doing good.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Peter Byck.
Emry Birdwell. Real pleasure. Glad to meet you.
Wow, what a beautiful home.
Thank you.
How long y'all been here?
Since 2004.
Okay. And were you ranching before that, or?
Yeah. I've been ranching, and I'm the son of a rancher, and he was the son of a farmer.
So 3 generations in Texas at least.
Mm-hmm. Did you come in from Bowie?
Yeah.
So you came by the cattle.
Yeah. How many head do you have this year?
There's 5,000 in that deal, and we're the only one running this many cattle in one herd. This next move will be the 4th move before lunch. Then they'll move at least twice more today.
And how many acres do y'all have?
14,000.
14,000. And do you graze all of it?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
We're in the process of picking up our wheat cattle next week. So
okay. I don't know that term, wheat cattle.
Other cattle we turned out on wheat.
Okay.
And it's on a gain.
Over the winter or?
Over the winter and
okay.
spring.
Got it. Can you tell a flavor difference with wheat?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Okay. I was thinking, because some people think you would be able to tell flavor differences from different states and different forages and things like that.
Yeah.
You don't think?
No, I wouldn't think.
I wouldn't, okay. That's just fancy people.
Well, that'd be Austin people. Go move some more cattle. It's about like yesterday. All of them are about the same.
We moved here on January 30th, 2004. We had sold my family business and I was at loose ends. I'd been in fiber optics and telecom with my dad and mother. And Emry and I had never done anything together. I mean, we got married and he raised the kids. I was on the road with construction crews. And when all of that came to an end, I was lost. I didn't know what we were going to do, what I was going to do. And we kind of a whim said, well, why don't we ranch together? I had no idea what that meant.
Where's that pipe ranch that you had in here?
I thought you meant real
the
pipe
valve
ranch.
ranch, wherever.
Right here. I got this.
How did you meet your wife?
Well, she sat behind me at homeroom in high school. She didn't speak to me back then. She was a cheerleader and I was a cowboy. That wasn't a great mix back then. And she finally got over it.
And I tell the story that I thought he was the cute cowboy. Emry says he doesn't have that same recollection of me. He says I was the stuck-up cheerleader bitch. And I'm like, wow, we have different memories of one another. Yeah, I'm a small town girl, went off to college and happened to be part of a band of 100 hippies on the SMU, Southern Methodist University campus. I have a group of girlfriends that we call ourselves the old hippie chicks, even to this day. And Emry is everything but a hippie. There are some conversations we cannot have. And then he's much more private than I am. There are things he'll never tell you. I'll tell you everything you want to know about me, down to my blood type and everything else.
What's your blood type?
I don't know. I don't know.
I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I don't know.
In the early 80s, a friend of mine went to Allen Savory School, came back and told me about it, said this is what you need to do. And of course they were running those ads back then that you could take this course and double your size of your herd. Of course, like a lot of other people, hell, I can do this the first rattle out of the box. First thing that happens, I hit a drought and it wrecked me. But I could see that all you had to do is do it right, because I had a lot of learning to do after that too.
You were practicing holistic management on your leased land for
18 years, but I didn't publicize what I was doing and didn't tell anybody because we were running double the stocking right there. And on the days that the cattle came down in the pastures next to paddocks next to the highway, I couldn't sleep at night worried about what somebody's gonna say because there were a lot of cattle there.
He really was hiding it.
He was really hiding.
Oh
Yeah. I mean, he was truthful that he was scared when the cattle moved along the roadway and thought that they would start to do some kind of count and tell the owner. I mean, you know, but he
Because
knew.
he had too many animals on his land for his lease.
Yes, yeah.
Because no one believes you can have this many animals
Yes.
on this much land.
And improve rangeland conditions. Well, I tell people, he came out of the closet when we moved here, and he could really start to put together those holistic management practices that he had wanted to do.
And tell people about it.
And tell people about it, yeah.
It took me 2 or 3 years after moving up here to figure out I wasn't leasing this anymore. I could do what I wanted to. I'd been in the mindset of worrying about what somebody thought for so long. It took me a long time to get over it. I saw that if you give this grass a chance to rest, it would grow and it would recover and it would be better the next year and it continue to improve. What I really didn't understand so much back then is how important herd impact was, but I could see what it could do when you did it right. So we started over.
Deborah, what is herd impact?
Well, it's holistic management, and it's made up of a lot of different components. I mean, one is just the action of their hoof on the ground itself, stirring up the seed beds that are already here. The other is concentrating that dung and urine in areas all over the ranch. Instead of just where they choose to go, we're fencing off paddocks so that we make them go in that area.
If this had been buffalo, there would have been 50,000 buffalo here. So that's the point of us cutting these paddocks down smaller to make that area smaller, to concentrate that impact and try to mimic what the buffalo did. You could turn them all out here and you think, well, it'd be the same, just turn them out on the whole ranch and get them up in July and away we go. Well, you don't get the impact with them scattered out.
One of the benefits that we've seen out of that herd impact is that eastern gamma grass was virtually extinct in this part of the world. And in 2013, we found our first eastern gamma bunchgrass. It was like having a new grandchild. We all took photos standing around it. We were so proud of it. And now it's gone all the way across the ranch through these seasonal draws. That seed was already here. We didn't plant it.
So a seed bank is, you've got your fields, right? And when this was all prairie, it had just enormous amounts of variety of plants growing, like all kinds. And then when people started grazing it in a way that wasn't conducive to those plants thriving, the seeds stayed in the soil, but the plants didn't express themselves, they didn't grow. So then these farmers and ranchers start doing things that's conducive to those plants growing, conducive to the soil's health, and all of a sudden these seeds grow and the plants express themselves, and people haven't seen those plants for 50 years or 100 years because they were just laying there dormant. So is there a seed bank that you guys are stimulating?
Yeah, there's a seed bank in everyone's pasture, but everything's got to get right, and when that gets right, and that comes about by herd impact and rest.
Do you have a normal rest period, or is it adaptive?
It varies according to the rate of growth of the grass. In the growing season, we're trying to go fast. We are rotating these cattle 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. Mainly the reason we're moving them that many times a day is every time we move them, they're going to fresh grass, and so they're consuming more grass and they're gaining more pounds. We don't want to stay on any one paddock very long. In 14 years, grazing 2.5 days of growing season, that's 35 days of grazing in 14 years.
That any one paddock has experienced.
So that piece of ground that you're standing on, 35 days total in the whole time you've been here for 14 years.
In the growing season.
That's not continuous grazing, is it?
No, that's not continuous grazing.
Because continuous grazing would be every day of those 14 years.
But it's not about how much you eat, it's about how much you knock down. You want to eat half of it and knock the rest of it down to form the litter. And the litter, in the end, it ends up being organic matter. But to begin with, it stops water from running off, it holds water, it protects the ground from evaporation, and it keeps the ground cool. And even that has an effect on your nesting birds, if you can keep that ground cool like that.
Are you saying that ground nesting birds will nest around these animals walking around?
Oh yeah, they'll be nesting. As soon as the quail, it's been too cold for the quail, they're just now starting to pair up.
I heard my first rooster call yesterday.
Well, I've seen pairs together, but it's got to get warm enough for them to start nesting. But they'll be nesting in this open areas, and it's all holistic, it all connects. One of the things we don't do is spray for weeds. And if you watch these steers out there, what they're eating weeds right now, you just get that tall one right there, eat that and prove my point. Thank you, you did it.
And now you need to move on. Don't eat any more of it.
And weed has got a bad name. It's usually a forb legume, and if you spray this thing for one thing, you're killing everything. It's like dropping an atom bomb on somebody. You might get some of the bad guys, you're gonna get a lot of the good ones too.
We have areas, in particular one is called Long Bottom, and it's about 2.5 miles long. And when we got here, it was nothing but just red clay as far as your eye could see. And now it has all of this low succession grasses and forbs that are coming on it like a carpet. And for us, when you talk about aha moments, those start to be the aha moments.
You have to change what's going on underneath the ground to get this to happen. And you can see these bare spots, and we can show you pictures.
And how big were the bare patches on this land when you got here?
Oh, hundreds of acres.
And sometimes we didn't even really realize what was going on. I didn't until you step back and you look at a satellite picture and you see that it was bare ground in 2014, and 2 years later in 2016 it's now green. It's covered with something.
It's amazing how this has changed in 14 years for us, and it all goes back to the cattle. Without them, this wouldn't have happened.
When you go from bare ground to ground that's covered with something that's green, you're doing a variety of practices that are beneficial. So when we start to cover that bare ground with the grasses, moisture is able to infiltrate, and it's clean when it finally gets down into the waterways.
And because it's cleaner coming into the city, you're saving the city money because they don't have to purify the water as much. Mm-hmm. So there's money saved. Mm-hmm. It's less energy, it's less everything. Mm-hmm. So that's actually a physical cost,
yes.
a dollar mm-hmm. cost. Mm-hmm. Plus, imagine if, you know, all of Houston had its original prairie around it. You're going to get flooding when you have 50 inches of rain with Hurricane Harvey, but you get a lot less flooding mm-hmm. when it's going in. Mm-hmm.
You want me to take the drain pipe out?
No.
I got this.
I got it.
Now, do you guys get along well when you're working, or does it get fiery?
Oh.
It can go both ways.
It's
depends on how she's acting.
You asshole. It's called intensive grazing, and at the Birdwell and Clark Ranch, it is intense, tense, and intensive. And he is fiery.
You're trying to call these cattle. I want you to call these cattle in here.
You call them?
Yes.
Emry, when you watch him, he's a master grazer. He is a master at what he does out here. He's not a very good teacher. And when you ask him what he wants you to do, he tells you the exact same way, only louder. You ask him the next time, exact same words, only louder. So he's not a good trainer at all, but he can show you what to do. When we first moved here, we ran 3 herds, and they ranged in size from 1,500 to 1,800. That meant we had to go see 3 herds every day. We weren't moving as intensely or as often as we are doing now. But all of a sudden, the drought of 2011 hit us.
We had 5,300 cattle here, and we realized we were in trouble. We were running out of water. And so we started laying pipelines from our good water to where we didn't have water. And so in the end, we put in 25 miles of poly pipe.
That was expensive, 25 miles of PV.
Well, when we ran out of water, it was really expensive. And at that point in time, we were trying to set up permanent troughs. And we realized we couldn't afford to set up permanent troughs. Besides, if we watered out of the same spot every time, the erosion and the degradation of the land would be too much.
Yeah,
so
severe.
If we were able to move the water trough and move the water trough to the middle of the paddock where we could water half the paddock at a time and instead of all of it, we'd decrease the trailing and the degradation of the land. So out of desperation, we cut a propane tank in half and our good friend Bobby Elledge.
He's a good friend, and he's just stuck with us. Even on a crazy idea that we can cut a propane tank in half and water 5,000 head of steers out of it.
The drought forced us into doing two things right. Forced us into going to one herd and forced us to improve our water.
We say the drought was the best thing that ever happened to us. And it has allowed Emry to really put into practice all the things that he learned back in the 80s.
Now, I couldn't help but see that that neighbor means something to y'all. Is that someone who's not with us anymore?
No, he's here. We were with him last night. He was
Yeah.
cooking or fixing calf rides last night. So I don't know why we both got emotional about him.
Well, he's bailed our ass out a lot of times, so.
I thought he'd passed away tragically.
I know.
He better not.
I can't believe we're both doing this.
So Emry, give us the lay of the land.
Yes, this is our side over here. It was grazed about 45 days ago. The new plants are coming. All those plants are really lush and growing, and the litter on there is just tremendous, and it's holding that moisture in there. I'm pretty sure this is switchgrass coming right here, and this is Indian grass right on this side, and that's Indian grass. There's a tremendous amount of diversity on this side of the fence. Different legumes and forbs coming up over here. And over this side, these people are really good people and really conservative grazers, and they got a tremendous amount of little blue stem, but they have no diversity. And without true diversity, you eventually fail. Some lower successional grasses in here, kind of trashy stuff, but I'm not even sure what that is. This is a little blue stem plant that's not matured. That's about all there's here. They don't put many cattle out like we do. There's all kinds of forage in there. It's just old forage. There's really no regrowth, and there's no diversity at all.
You say they don't put many animals out. How many do they put out? Do you know?
I don't really know, but you can tell there hadn't been a track in there. There's no trail, there's no track, there's no sign there's been any cattle in there. But they're apparently on something they'd rather be on than not up here. But I know there's a difference in this side and our side.
And so you would factor that difference to be
Animal impact, not enough number and not enough time managed grazing on it.
You know, we're not a grass-finished ranch. And, you know, we're starting to draw the line. You're either grass-finished or you're not. What I'm hoping we're able to do is keep this big tent open and not draw those lines between those of us that are grass-finished and those that aren't, but focus on the practices. And the result of those practices, we can get more of those traditional ranchers involved in this.
What I'm learning from you all is you don't have to be 100% of anything. You guys are doing some things that are full-on regenerative ag, some things you're doing that are full-on this ranch.
Well, we change. It's constantly about changing and figuring out, you know, that's the best thing about what we do is tomorrow morning we may wake up and figure out something new or better, and we can do it a better way, and you have to be open to that.
We're taking our satisfaction out of different aspects of the whole regenerative agriculture movement. We don't all have to be exactly alike. On average, we're producing between 100 to 120 pounds of beef per acre. Our neighbors in the county average is somewhere between 40 and 50. That's a telling number. And we can add more cattle here and run more cattle, all the while improving rangeland conditions, but not increasing our overheads. One of the things that I'm okay with now, but it has disturbed me, is that people want to call us an industrial farm or an industrial ranch because of the numbers. I don't know what's industrial about 5,000 head of cattle and 2 people, maybe 3, running it. For the greater part of the 14 years we were here, we worked with one gentleman named Omar. When he decided he had to have this woman he fell in love with, he went to Mexico to get her, and he couldn't get back. And so we've been without any consistent full help for 18 months. Our children are not interested in coming back and taking over the ranch. He's 67, I'm 66. So we're once again opening ourselves up to try to find that young couple or that young woman or man that want to come here and really learn about this type of grazing, but understand that you've seen us this morning, it's manual work. There's manual work as well as making decisions about grazing, as well as financial decisions, hedging, marketing, all of that kind of thing.
You're either born with that or you ain't. And the ones that's born with it apparently got sense enough to go do something else. I've been a horseback all my life, and I've had a lot of things happen. I've been run over a lot in the pens. I mean, this business, that's part of it. And some people's bodies are more apt to take it than mine. I guess mine wasn't able to. I got to where I couldn't walk. I was going to the hospital every night to get injections so I could go the next day. I finally couldn't go anymore.
Were you worried about his back that, oh my gosh, what if he can never work again?
Overwhelmingly, yes. You see a person that's been so strong, and when his back went out, he couldn't even get out of the house. Omar and I had to figure out what we had to do. I don't even know how to say it. It's just been a huge learning experience for both of us, and to try to figure out how to be true partners in this endeavor out here. Emry's goal is want to make a difference. We want to be like both of our sets of parents who made a difference in their world. So we want to make a difference here, and yeah, I want to see it carried on. It'd be a shame for there not to be someone interested who wants to keep doing this and learning about our mistakes and learning to do it better. Give me a hug.
Just for the camera.
No. I told Emry at lunch, I just said, you know, I love you more today. And I said, I don't know what it's been about today, but you've revealed some sides of you that have made me love you more today. That's when I do think we're a good pair. He grounds me and I lift him up. And that's part of that dual role we play with each other.
Hey, Emry, can you say hello?
Hello.
I'm thinking what I just told you sounded really contrived or something.
It's true, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was for me, but then I'm feeling embarrassed by it now. Like,
About what?
huh?
About what?
How at lunchtime, how something about this filming that made me like you more, love you more.
It'll go away.
It will go away. It'll go away.